Hello, everybody, and welcome to this all-new episode of the Fairfax Sports Report. I'm your host, Monica Moore, and we have a great show for you tonight. We're not only going to be talking about state semifinal football, but we also have our winter basketball preview. And to help me get through all of it, I'm delighted to be joined by some of the best sports writers from around the region. Paul Frumelt from the Fairfax Times, Phil Murphy from Digital Sports, and BJ Kuparoulis, a contributor to the Washington Post. Well, before we jump into everything, let's thank the folks that help make our program possible. First of all, our good friends from CCI Screen Printing for all of your screen printing needs. And special thanks to Craig Sturbutzel for all the photos you'll see throughout tonight's episode. You can get copies of this program and the games we broadcast from around the region at www.pressboxvideo.com. And check out our website at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com to see our Video Vault feature. You can become a fan of this program on our Facebook page and send us any news, notes, comments, suggestions that you have to our email address. Well, let's start out with a couple of news and notes. First of all, congratulations to Shelly Montgomery, the Woodson field hockey standout, has been named a Region All-American by the National Field Hockey Coaches Association. Of course, she was our Northern Region Player of the Year, and she'll be playing for American University next year. And speaking of Woodson, congratulations to Melissa Gallo, who has signed her national letter of intent to play basketball next year for Boston University. Some other college signings to mention, congratulations to Mary Barondess, the Westfield standout who plays both lacrosse and basketball. She'll be playing lacrosse next year for Longwood University. And finally, some coaching news to announce. Congratulations to Centerville's new softball coach, Tracy Bennett. Bennett played both softball and basketball for Chowan College in Murfreesboro, North Carolina. Also, congratulations to Brian Newell, who's Centerville's new girls lacrosse coach. All right, well, let's jump into some football. Now, for those of you who saw the program last week, you may have noticed that due to a technical glitch, we did not get to the #1 play of the year, so we don't want you to miss out. So I'm going to throw it over to Paul and Phil that are once again going to show you our top plays of the year.
Hi guys, Paul from the Fairfax County Times and Phil Murphy from Digital Sports. Yeah, you kind of missed that top play last year, but you know what? The top 10 was so nice. Let's see it all again.
Why not, Paul? Why would you ruin a good thing? We have the top 10 plays, and actually, in all honesty, well, top 5 plays of the year. There are probably about 20 plays in there. Some of the best hits, catches, performances, finishes around the region. We pick things up with the top 5 plays. We have the best hits. Marcus Hughes from the Bell game, Paul, you were there, buries Chris Ventura out of the backfield, lowering the shoulder in the Bell game and rung his bell. Well, we go from a bell to a bong. New bong hit. Perez Newbong knocks him over between Braddock and West Springfield. Then here, Wesley Scott. That's why you always leave a note. Chris Washington then for Edison, flattening the receiver. Edison really missed his presence towards the end of the year. Opposing receivers did not. Edison wins that game. Now, somebody's got a case of the Mondays. Ball bounces to Taylor Monday, and we have 1 hit. We have 2 hits, and punctuating things, Bertrand Mgampa also in on those hits, Charles Bajel and Patrick Folger. If he would have scored, that would have been higher up in the countdown, but knocked out of bounds at the 15-yard line. Then we go all the way back to week 1. Herndon in this game scored more points than any other team in any game this year, and Abi Dre Dota with the pile driver. That's his finishing move against the TJ receiver. Now we go to the best catches. This is number 5. Again, it's a compilation. There are a lot of great performances on the season. Can't ruin it and then just show just 5 plays. Going to be doing a lot of people a disservice, including you watching Warren Denny go up and get it. Denny's is always open, lays out for the catch. However, didn't count due to an illegal motion penalty, but this one did. Carl Lendeman against Falls Church. I go in slow motion to make it more dramatic. 2 hands on it, 1 foot. That's worth 6 points. JV football player decided to get some love too. Hey, everyone gets on the camera in this show. Washington Lee on the right side. That highlight, wrong side of this one, as Nazrul Islam climbs the ladder in a 35-0 Hawks win over the Generals early in the season. Oh, some of these catches are actually outstanding. Week 7 now, South Lakes and McLean. Seahawks got the better of the Highlanders here, helped by Sean Price. Want to get high? Goes up and grabs it from Sean Rana. Then Langley McLean, Week 10, one of the best games of the season. McLean coming down to the wire to get the win, but Joey Kimpy, not losing his place in the highlight, gets both feet down with the grab in the back of the end zone for a 12-yard score. Then Danny Fenyak rolling left and dialing up IDK. His BFF Gary Turner taps a foot. Turner, again, I'm guessing wears like a size 12. He wears a size 9. This is going out of bounds, but watch him grab it. Of course you're watching. You're tuning into your television. What else would you be doing? gets the foot down in bounds with the dramatic slow motion pause. Westfield beats the Rams 21-20 on the road. At that point, that was Robinson's first loss of the season. Then, maybe not the best catch, but one of the best throws of the year. Week 2, Lake Braddock. Woodson, a lot of controversy surrounding this play. Connor Riley barely gets it off. He did get it off. To Josh Hogan on the 2-point conversion. Woodson beats Lake Braddock 43-42, but Braddock will get the revenge in the regional final. We'll see that momentarily, Mr. Frummel. Well, here's Mr. R. Connor Riley against Centerville, Week 10. 7 carries, 305 yards, 4 touchdowns. After his first 2 carries, his yards per carry total on the season went from 5.97 to 7.05. He had 189 rushing yards on 2 touches. In this game, the 305 yards accounted for a 1/4 of his rushing yard total to that point. He got District Offensive Player of the Year, deserving, but this game really punctuated a great regular season for the Ram rushing attack and Connor Riley. Between Riley, junior running back Jared Velasquez, junior quarterback Michael Lepresti, the Rams scored on 10% of the combined touches. Okay, week 1, South County against Chantilly. You see Andre Simmons in motion. Aaron Andrews going over the middle, only Iabote. 3rd and goal, South County down 6 to Chantilly. Ball's dropped at the goal line, but look at the bottom of the screen. Coach Pete Bendorf saying, let's run the same play again. This time, Simmons lines up in the slot, runs the same wheel route to the outside. Iabote runs a switch. DBs go with him like he's going to him, and with 8 seconds left on 4th and 10, ball goes to Andre Simmons for the win. See that handsome guy in the back of the end zone, Paul? You know who that was. Then we go TC against Annandale. TC Williams defense scoring points in bunches this season first. Here's Israel Richardson, gets the ball at the 31-yard line, and Israel's going 69 yards back to the homeland, weaving through, gets to the end zone. TC actually had 2 pick sixes in this game. We go from Israel Richardson to Damian Benton. Jumps the hitch. He's got 99 problems. That hitch ain't one. Takes it 50 yards back to the checkerboard. Tingney, Titans over the Adams, big. Then go back to week 3 against Oakton. This is a game, a matinee on a Friday afternoon. Jimmy Boone, well, let's not think with your dipstick, yeah, whatever. Ball's picked up by Cello Westminster Abbey, and he goes 58 yards for the game-winning touchdown with 1 minute 53 seconds left. TC Williams gets that fumble and 2 interceptions in the last 3 minutes to stun the defending regional champs, 15-9 at home. Number 1, it worked. Perez Newbong, Robinson in this game. Newbong had a great regional playoffs. After Robinson cut the lead to 17-7, Newbong's taking it 95 yards and then hits the Jets. That is some serious game-breaker turbo. Look at that effect. 95 yards for the score. Braddock routes Robinson. First win over the Rams in 10 calendar years. Beat them 38-7 to advance to the regional finals. Well, Paul, we go to the regional finals now. How about that timing from me? Connor Riley struggled early in this game. Lake Braddock putting him in a deep hole. They're already up 14-0. Ball is tipped. And Perez Newbong, what are you doing this afternoon, man? Not too much. I'm just going to head back to the crib. Taking it 63 yards for the pick 6. Braddock holds on, fends off the Cavalier comeback, and they win the region title 27-20. Their first region title since 1995. Newbong, 2 key TDs for the Bruins. And Paul, last time they won the region, on that very field, 1995.
Mr. Phil Murphy, take a breath. Actually, don't take a breath because we're going to jump into the Northern Region first team offensive team here, jumping into our centers. Austin Mayhew, you see from Oakton. Billy.
Oh, we only have one center, and that's Austin Mayhew.
Oh, well, yeah, excuse me. Let's go with the offensive line. You see Cameron Kolb there for Lake Braddock, Penn State commit. Jay Whitmore from TC Williams. Colin Dempsey had a great year for WT Woodson. Obviously, Brandon Johnson with 2 touchdowns in the state semifinal on Friday.
TJ O'Connell, outstanding season for West Springfield. But Paul, who you know fresher than Kolb? Riddle me that. I'm going to say it's Michael Niebrick, Offensive Player of the Year for the All-Region team. Not on this list, but he's on a future slide. He was the first-team All-Patriot District quarterback. Again, that's up against Connor Riley, kid committed to Temple. So you pretty much whoever won that battle, he got 7 of the 8 first-place votes in the Patriot District voting. He's going to be the All-Region Player of the Year. Runner-up, Marcus Harris. So you have 2 juniors. Look at Paul, last year we only had 3 underclassmen on the first team. This year, the first team is littered with juniors, and that was offense, defense, and special teams. So very strong junior class that is proven with the Offensive Player of the Year and runner-up.
Melvin Robinson from Annandale, Matt Zanalato from Robinson, a senior, Adrice Augustus from Robert E. Lee.
Well, go ahead. Way to rain on my parade.
Going over to the defensive first team, Emmanuel Adetunja, huge game for Lake Braddock in the state semifinal.
This kid has been a freak in the entire playoffs. I mean, multiple sacks against Robinson. He had 2 sacks, a bunch of QB hurries against Battlefield. We will be showing that later. But look at all the Lake Braddock guys on the defense. Like everyone wants to talk about Coach Bill Renner installing the offense. Yeah, they put up 1 million points a game. But this defense, having to play added possessions, that spread makes them be on the field longer, really did the job. Had the lowest points per game among any team in the Northern region once the regional final was over with. Brian Lighty, standout linebacker going to Virginia Tech, and Josh Ogen, the Patriot District Defensive Player of the Year.
I dare you to find a better class of linebackers than this year with Josh Hogan, personally my favorite defensive player, Brian Lighty and Chris Lavery. Just a fantastic class of linebackers. Moving along.
Eric Wright, you didn't even mention him on the linebackers. Again, a kid coming from Paul VI with Idris Augustus. Kind of got lost in the high-profile transfer when Drizzy went over to Lee. We knew Drizzy put up great numbers, but this defense would not have been what it was without Wright, both in his pass rush, his run defense, and his pass coverage.
Brian Lighty, we mentioned the Defensive Player of the Year. Josh Hogan, the runner-up. And, of course, we got to mention Thomas Stickford, 9 interceptions, 4 run back to the house. He's also key for that Lake Braddock defense.
Yep. For all 4 defensive backs, everyone in the starting defensive backfield for this first-team All-Region team, except for Spencer Rosatano, Patriot District. So we have 3 of the 4 defensive backs coming from the Patriot District, kind of adding to that argument that the Patriot District maybe had a better season than the Concord this year. It's kind of tough to argue when you have 2 Patriot District teams in the Division VI final.
Of course, Marcus Hughes from Falls Church, the utility Player of the Year. As we move on to the next slide, you see John O'Connell from West Springfield, the place kicker.
And Donnie Derry McQueen for Annandale, the punter. Great season for him. Cortez Taylor, one of those feared returnmen. And this is a pretty good conversation. You got guys like Rayshawn Riggins, Andre Simmons, some great returners this year. Cortez really got it done. Punt return for a score against Braddock. Another one against Robinson as TC nearly sprung 2 more upsets in those games.
And that recaps the Northern region. But we're past that now. We're into the state tournament, and Monica Moore will set you up for the Division VI state semifinal.
Well, despite all the bad weather this weekend, they did get all of these semifinal games in. So first of all, let's talk about Lake Braddock versus Battlefield. This was the first time these 2 teams squared off. Bo Revel leading Battlefield against the Lake Braddock Bruins. We're going to talk about that play in a minute because it was crucial, but these 2 teams made the most of their first meeting with 14 seconds to go in regulation. Michael Niebrick scores a touchdown. Bruins up 21-14. Certainly the Lake Braddock fans start celebrating, but the game was not over because on the kick return, Bobo Bethard gives a lateral pass to his teammate Blaine Mason. He runs it all the way into the end zone. The game goes into overtime. Battlefield has to settle for the field goal, and then that catch that you just saw, Chris Williams, Michael Niebrick connected with him for the game-winning touchdown. Guys, huge win for Lake Braddock, sends them into the state championship.
Yeah, Phil, before we jump into the highlights, let's talk about this for a second because we need to wrap our mind about what happened on Monday night. I mean, first things first, all the mistakes in the first half for Lake Braddock.
Yeah, Lake Braddock, a lot of penalties called on them. Actually, Battlefield's first score was set up by a holding penalty followed up by an illegal procedure. Illegal procedure almost cost them in overtime. 4 turnovers for Braddock in this game, but they outgained Battlefield 419-235. Battlefield had a huge disparity in time of possession. This game really had it all. Paul, you and I were both there. Pretty cold, but great conditions for football. There wasn't much wind, and they did a great job clearing off the field. The field is in outstanding shape. And what it takes to have a game of this caliber is to have 2 outstanding teams. Battlefield coming in undefeated for a reason, and Braddock on a winning streak that has lasted since they lost to Robinson back in Week 5. But we cue up the highlights for this game. Pick things up first quarter. Mentioned penalties costing the Bruins on this drive. Backed up, ball goes over the punter's head. Nate Fleming, though, safety first, pitches it out of the back of the end zone. That's alert, but after sacrifice bunt, Battlefield up 2-0 with 9 minutes left in the first quarter. Now Braddock coming back. Mustafa Alami reads a screen, and Alami reads at a 12th grade level. Picks it off, returns it down to the Battlefield 41-yard line with 4 minutes left, and it took Lake Braddock just 1 minute and 30 seconds to strike. Michael Niebrick calls shoddy, looks over. Going through his progressions has gotten so much better through this year. And if you're one of those guys on Rivals or Scout that thinks this kid isn't a quarterback in college, he's a defensive back, I hope you're tuned in because that pass was pinpoint to Brandon Johnson. Michael Niebrick had a day. 29-yard score, 7-2. Bruins, but when punts go off and then the ball's kind of bouncing around, they yell, "Peter!" Maybe Perez Newbaum thought they were yelling Perez because he dives on it. Battlefield scoops it at the 18-yard line, cannot advance it though, but kind of miscommunication there. Lake Braddock, it would be costly because Bo Rebel had a 10-yard run down to the 2 on 3rd and 3. Then here he is from the 1 QB sneak. Kind of tough to stop, 6'6", 229. I don't care how big your defensive line is. Battlefield puts it in to make it 8-7, but PAT blocked by Andrew Weidinger. 8-7 is your score, but Braddock coming back, taking only 5 plays again as Nieberg again going to Brandon Johnson. His birthday was on the same day as the regional final, but here, he's killing them, Smalls. 42-yard score from Nieberg. He finished 5 catches, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns. Lake Braddock now ahead 14-8. That would also be your score at the break. But second half, Battlefield on this drive lasted 8 minutes. They had 11 carries, 64 yards up to this point. This is the first time they tried to go out of the pocket. Cost them 5 yards. Jake Holmes gets a tackle for loss. Then the ensuing field goal attempt. And Paul, I only say attempt because it's going to be short. But the 8 minutes Battlefield had the ball on this drive. 34-yard attempt, again, short. Score still 14-8. The 8 minutes Braddock had the ball on this drive, or Battlefield had the ball on this drive, was longer than Braddock had it in either half. So Battlefield really dominated the time of possession, but when you're moving the ball like Lake Braddock, it doesn't matter. But it does matter because Andrew Smith, coming on the blitz, comes free on the strong side, strips Nieberg of the ball, and now that's stinking with your dipstick, Jimmy. Jimmy Long gets on the ball at the Lake Braddock 38-yard line, a 31-yard pass from Bo Revel to James Robinson would set up this. Revel nearly loses the handle on the handoff, takes it in from 1 yard away, 10-14 left. Scores 14 all, pending the extra point. And Paul, I only say pending the extra point because Jason Hopner, trouble for this Battlefield special teams. He pulls it wide. Maybe it may have been afraid of getting it blocked. Again, just trying to get it high, messed up a step. So you see the clock there, confirms we already suspected. It's still 14 apiece. Now I move on later in the quarter. This is when things got crazy. 3rd and 6 for Battlefield. Here's Emmanuel Adetunji, all first team, all region of them. Sacking the quarterback for a loss. That was his second sack in a 3-minute span. That was big. Coming on 3rd down, forced a 4th and long situation with Battlefield did not convert. So Lake Braddock takes over, own 31-yard line, 46 seconds left. He had only took him 32 seconds to go 69 yards because Nieberg going upstairs again. Nieberg, outstanding day through the air. Threw for 304 yards on 17 of 32 passing. Completes a 38-yard pass there to Emmanuel Adetunji. A 28-yard toss from Nieberg to Johnson would set up this. I missed it because I was making my way down to the field, but Michael Nieberg gets a 4-yard run. Lake Braddock coaching staff hooking a brother up. High in the scenario would be the brother. 4-yard score. Nieberg at this point, 400 yards from scrimmage on the day. He actually had 415 of Lake Braddock's 419 yards. But, we got some drama with 14 ticks left. Nicky Weiler doing the squib kick. Ball goes to Bobo Withard. Goes right, wrapped up by Ross Renzi, who had 9 tackles on the day, but pitches to Blaine Mason, and Mason is in the business of misery. Good gosh almighty. He's going 68 yards for the game-tying kick return touchdown with less than 1 second left. At this point, Paul, you and I were both on the Braddock sideline. They were completely deflated. Scoreboard again shows I know what I'm talking about. Battlefield, though, this time would make the extra point. 21-all. We go to OT. Battlefield gets the ball first. The Bobcats take it to the 7 on 1st and goal. So here, ball's pitched to Cedric Aguiman. He had 78 yards after halftime, finished 91, but he needed 93. Ross Renzi runs him out of bounds. Renzi again, team high 9 tackles. Lake Braddock had 10 players with 5 or more tackles. Then Kelly Doe gets in on the stop on 3rd and goal. Forces a field goal with which Hepner hit. There we go, from 20 yards. Battlefield up 3. So Braddock needs to come back. They at least need a field goal. Touchdown would be good. Turnover would be bad. Well, 1st and goal. Lake Braddock, hold your breath. Chris Wendell goes up and bats the ball away. He had a team-high 9 tackles for the Bobcats. Nearly was picked off on the backside of it. Okay, 1st and goal. We go 2nd and goal. Push back 5 yards. 3rd and goal from the 15. Lake Braddock faithful, go ahead and get ready for some goosebumps. Nieberg accounted for 415 of Lake Braddock's 419 yards. Chris Williams, a goose egg in the touchdown column for his career. Well, let's get rid of that. First career touchdown catch, 15-yard score on 3rd and goal. Braddock beats Battlefield 27-24 in overtime. This one had it all. Guys in the back, Jim and you guys, I'm sorry for having 21 clips for this game, but we needed them. Braddock beats Battlefield 27-24. See Brandon Johnson. He has been absolutely stellar for the Bruins this year, and the defense making the stops when they counted. Again, Battlefield had the ball for 34 minutes of the 48 in this game. Braddock, though, still pulled out the win.
Michael Nieberg, 304 passing yards through the air, obviously, with 3 touchdowns, 111 rushing yards, and a touchdown. We cannot overstate how good he was in this game.
And how good he's been this season. Again, clowns like, you, me, BJ, every time we talk to him, we want to ask about the interceptions. Well, you threw 13 interceptions through 5 weeks. What's going on? The kid has accounted for 4,200 plus yards from scrimmage this year and 43 touchdowns. That's an average of 300 bloody yards a game and 3 scores every time he takes the field. The kid has been phenomenal. He's had over 200 passing yards now 10 times in 13 games. He's only been held under 100 rushing yards and passing yards combined twice. That was against Fairfax and Woodson. Conditions both played a factor in those games. So he's a deserving first-team All-Region player. And like I said when I was stumbling through the highlight, if a college coach, I read on Rivals that he's projected as a defensive back. Why? 304 yards in this game against one of the best defenses Prince William County has to offer on 17 to 32 passing, and you see him going through his progressions, dodging blitzes, getting the yards when they count. Again, yes, Woodson held the 50 yards rushing, but 3rd and 13, he's picking up 15 yards. 4th and 3, he's picking up 5 yards. It's been like that all season for the kid. And the best thing about him, when you and I and BJ asked him those questions about the picks, he could not have handled it with more class and maturity than he has. And that's what allows him to be so cool under pressure and step up to the occasion in games like this.
A junior, by the way.
Junior.
A junior. All right, so Lake Braddock heading to their first state final in the program's history. Who will they play? Monica Moore has the details.
In the second state Division VI semifinal, it was Oscar Smith squaring off against Thomas Dale, and Thomas Dale were the victors in that contest. A bit of an upset as Oscar Smith is nationally ranked. Their quarterback Philip Sims is Alabama bound, almost 3,000 passing yards on the year and 32 touchdowns. We have a special treat for you because earlier today, Phil and Paul were able to speak with Stephen Lewis from Digital Sports Richmond, who has covered Thomas Dale all year and who can give you all the information you need about this Thomas Dale Knight squad that Lake Braddock will be playing.
Thanks, Monica. We're now joined by Stephen Lewis of Digital Sports Richmond. He covers the Thomas Dale Knights. Stephen, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing very well, Stephen. First, let's talk about the Knights' upset over Oscar Smith. How big of a win was that for Thomas Dale?
It's got to be one of the biggest in school history. Obviously, with Thomas Dale, they have a great history. But when you're beating somebody ranked in the top 10 nationally and being a severe underdog, it's got to be one of the biggest in school history. No doubt about it.
Hey, Stephen, talk a little bit about that game. They went up early, Thomas Dale did, and then Oscar Smith was able to chip away and force overtime. Talk us through what happened on that game.
Well, I think the weather had a big deal to do with it. Dale is a smash-mouth team, and when that rain and that sleet and snow started coming down, and Philip Sims and those guys couldn't throw the ball like they usually do, I think that really hurt Oscar Smith. And I don't think they were ready to play a smash-mouth football game. And that's what Thomas Dale does. Coach Vic Williams, he kind of gets criticized for it because a lot of the teams, even around here, are going to spread offenses. I think you guys might be familiar with Verona going to the state tournament so many times. They even switched to a spread offense, but Dale refuses to. And once that weather came out and it got to that sloppy, muddy field, it was advantage Dale big time.
Thomas Dale winning 20-17 over Oscar Smith. Demetric Jackson, 181 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Stephen, talk to me about Demetric Jackson.
Hey, Demetric Jackson, like I said earlier when I was talking with you guys, when I did my preseason visits, really wasn't on the radar. Only a sophomore, kind of slight build. Thomas Dale likes to run big backs. I don't know if you guys probably remember Ken Oxendine from Tech and Rudy Johnson of the Bengals a few years back. Those are the backs that they usually run, power backs. And he's not a power back. He does run tough, but here midway through the season, he just started getting some carries in there and became very effective. And he had a big game, a huge game.
All right, Stephen, talk to us about some of the other impact players on this team. Yes, 181 yards for Jackson, but I mean, obviously this team has to be talented more than a one-trick pony if it's going to beat Oscar Smith and get to the state final.
Definitely, and I don't think the quarterback, Demetrius Campbell, got to show much as well. I mean, with him and Sims, it was just too tough to pass the ball effectively downfield. But he had a tremendous season, especially in big games. Dale doesn't throw the ball much, but when he threw it and when he had to throw it, beating our number one team here in the region, Meadowbrook, upsetting them to win the district to get to the playoffs, he's a big-time player. He's a senior. He's been there before. He's been the quarterback for a couple of years now, so he can definitely get it done. Arek Green is, I think, man, he's one of the best players in the Central region, hands down. He can do it all. He can catch it. He can run it. Defensively, he is a thumper. He can tackle you. He had a big hit on Philip Sims that really kind of turned the tide of the game when Oscar Smith was driving. Big sack on him. He did tweak his knee a little bit. I think he'll be ready to go, but he's definitely a big part. Their defense is obviously their strong suit. They also have other terrific linebackers. Drake Evans is another one. Mike Edmonds is another one. Just guys that really know how to play football and get it done. And when they arrive with nasty attitude for sure.
We talked about the tough turf during the semifinal game, muddy after the snow and the rain. They were able to hold Phillip Sims to over 3,000 yards, 32 touchdowns on the year. Now coming in, Lake Braddock also has a dynamic offense with quarterback Michael Niebrick. Talk to me about how this defense can stop another dynamic offense, this time on nice turf at Scott Stadium.
Well, that will definitely be a challenge for Thomas Dale, but like I said, they've seen a lot of offenses. Central Region football hasn't been up to par with the Northern Region and the Eastern Region in years past, but I tell you, this year we've had a lot of good teams, and the playoffs were very competitive, and they've seen some talented quarterbacks and talented athletes on the outside, and I'm sure they went up and saw the game on Monday that went down, so I'm sure they'll probably have a plan of what to do, but again, I mean, it's just so tough stopping all of these talented offenses, but they've been successful thus far, so I wouldn't count them out.
All right, Stephen, Thomas Dale, a couple losses during the season. They weren't the top seed coming out of the Central Region, but they've beaten some seriously good teams, some talented teams to get to this point. What have they been doing differently in the last 5 to 6 weeks to go on this run and make the state final?
I would tell you nothing. It sounds funny, but the first two games, with the 1 and 2 start, those first 3 games they went up 14-0 in all 3 of those games against playoff competition. So I think what they did was not step off of the gas pedal. Like I said with Coach Williams, he's more of a conservative coach. But in those games, they passed the ball and got big 14-point leads. And that's what I wrote about with the Oscar Smith one. Hey, they got another 14-point lead, but this one stood up for them. So I think just, learning to close out games, I believe they, got to do that a little bit better. But, again, just not pressing off the gas, not relying on your defense to hold a 14-point lead with so many talented offenses that you have to play. Keep the pedal to the metal, keep running the ball, obviously, to turn out the clock. But, hey, throw some passes as well because you have a talented quarterback in Campbell, good receivers in Brandon Burden, and look out for the tight end as well. Number 82, his name is slipping my mind right now. I know his first name is Mike, but he's a big-time, I think it's Mike Evans, I believe, or Mike Dudley, I'm sorry, Mike Dudley. He is his number one option, no doubt about it. So I think offensively they just need to continue to be aggressive and defensively just do what they've been doing.
Stephen Lewis doing big things for Digital Sports Richmond. Stephen, thanks a lot for talking to us about Thomas Dale.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me on, and we'll see you at Scott Stadium.
Stephen, thanks
see you
a lot.
Saturday.
The Virginia Division VI Championships at Scott Stadium in Charlottesville, Virginia. This Saturday, December 4th, kickoff at 4 p.m. Back to Monica.
All right, and once again, we'll show you the statistics from that state semifinal game there. And Demetric Jackson, a player you're certainly going to want to keep your eyes on this Saturday, had a huge game against Oscar Smith. Well, let's segue now into the Division V state semifinals and talk a little bit about Stonebridge versus Massaponax. Stonebridge winning their 3rd time in 5 years, will be heading off to the state championship, and Spencer Rosatano, in my humble opinion, at least the player of the game. It was Massaponax's own mistakes that hurt them in this one. 5 turnovers. Rosatano had 3 fumble recoveries. Massaponax had more first downs, more time of possession, more total yardage, but the mistakes added up, and guys, Stonebridge heading back to the state finals where they're very comfortable.
Phil, I think the story here is the field. I mean, you'll see on the highlights, there's no green there.
Yeah, we had Craig Sturbeltz's picture there of Spencer Rosatano. His jersey did not look like that on Sunday, actually, against Massaponax. I mean, this field, they didn't even bother painting the 5-yard markers, let alone any yard markers or the hashes, because it was just mud. And actually had to realign the field at halftime. Both teams were playing on it. Stonebridge had the better of it, though, as we check out the highlights here. Second play from scrimmage, actually, from Stonebridge, taking a play out of Little Wayne's playbook because they're taking out the pocket, showing it, and throwing it. Wide receiver pass, Kyle Gouveia deep to Stanley Johnson. Stan is running, and that's the best, actually, the field looked on the day. 60-yard score. Stonebridge up 54 seconds in. 7-0, but he was doing kickoff. Ball goes under the Panthers' returner. He can't see it in the mud. Ball's brown, mud's brown. Mike Riding Gertie gets dirty, falls on it at the 9, but Stonebridge missed the field goal. By rule, Massaponax gets the ball at the 20. Triple option. That's a problem for the Bulldogs because Thomas Robinson is hooked on Massaponax, and it's working for him. 80-yard touchdown run. He seemed to be the only one in cleats deep enough because you see everyone just slipping, sliding, falling down. This is a blooper reel 80-yard touchdown run on the day. Robinson went over 100 yards. I'm not saying exactly what he had yet because he's going to have a bigger impact later, but score 7-7 pending. Oh, snap. Ball goes over the holder's head. Stonebridge punishes it. Connor Calderwood gets the tackle. 7-6 in favor of the Bulldogs. Points after touchdowns were the story here, but the bigger story, as my friend Monica Moore mentioned, Spencer Rosatano. Jawan Latney there coughs it up. Rosatano, you want me on that ball. You need me on that ball late in the first quarter at Stonebridge's 12-yard line. Then, second quarter, more Rosatano capitalizing on Massaponic's errors. Here's Kyle Gouveia stripping it, and Rosatano in one fluid motion getting there. The kid's already caked in mud. I shook his hand after the game and had to wash my gloves. 2 plays later, ball is at the 1-yard line after a great Rosatano 14-yard reception. Here is Marcus Harris, 1-yard score. Stonebridge coming in on the day 12-0 when he gets over 100 yards from scrimmage, but 28-yard reception by Mason Chandler. You have to stop the Q-tip when there's resistance. Put the ball at the 1. Here's Thomas Robinson, his second touchdown with 27 seconds left in the half. Just score at the break, 15-13. Robinson, 139 yards. Now, Massaponic's stretching the lead out, actually grabbing the lead on this 44-yard punt return touchdown by Jawan Latney. He was their stud. He's the one Mickey Thompson said they had to stop. Massaponic's on the day, 273 rushing yards. They are up 20-15, but Bulldogs coming right back. Kyle Gouveia, actually no, Brian Rohde hits Taylor Lampke for a 75-yard touchdown reception at the 6:53 mark. Stonebridge up 21-20, but they are going for 2 again. Stonebridge scored 3 touchdowns on the day. Massaponic scored 3 touchdowns on the afternoon. Bulldogs get the 3-point win, though, because they did better on points after touchdowns. Harris held under 100 yards for the first time this season, 100 yards from scrimmage, and it's a game Stonebridge won. Wrapping things up, Spencer Rosatano, his 3rd fumble recovery of the day. At this point, Spencer Rosatano is auditioning for a Tide commercial. He is just caked in mud. Massaponic's coming back, trying one more time, but 4th and 5. Kyle Gouveia, Connor Calderwood. Basically, if you have more than 3 syllables, you're in on the stop for Stonebridge on 4th down. Last gasp for the Panthers. Thomas Robinson finds a wide open Dexter Rogers, but problem is Rogers is in Columbia, navy, and white, gets the pickle-lickle. Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Stonebridge hangs on for the win, 23-20. They get back to the state final for the 3rd time in the last 5 years.
But Phil, guess who they're going to meet? Stonebridge, they know how to get into the state final. Phoebus knows how to get into the state final. Monica will tell you how the Phantoms advanced.
So the second Division 5 state semifinal was Phoebus versus Hanover. This one was a game of halves. The first half was all Hanover. At halftime, Hanover fans feeling very excited, but Phoebus took over in the second half. And as you were saying, Paul, they are no strangers to the state championship. They've won 29 in a row. They've never lost a state championship game. So it will be Stonebridge versus Phoebus. But guys, just a little statistic for you. Phoebus's last loss was to Stonebridge in 2007, so that will be your state final on Saturday, also taking place at Scott Stadium. So guys, what do you think of this matchup? As you said, both of these teams, no strangers to the state championship.
Well, Phil, coming into this season, we talked about this all throughout the summer. It's Oscar Smith, it's Phoebus. Well, Oscar Smith didn't live up to their end of the bargain, and Phoebus did. And again, you mentioned Stonebridge and Phoebus, 2 of the best programs in Division 5 over the last 5 years. But it looks like Phoebus might have the edge here.
Yeah, Eastern Region generally does well in the state championship. The Hampton Crabbers have more state championships in football than any other team in the state. Now, Phoebus seems to be taking that throne over in recent seasons, including last season, running the table, going 15-0. Now, Monica mentioned Phoebus's last loss to Stonebridge. That happened in the 2007 state semifinal. That happened in Ashburn, 38-24. Well, last year, the Phantoms got back at the Bulldogs, 38-8. And that was a Stonebridge team that was loaded with Division I talent. So now we have the rubber match, and it's on a neutral field, Scott Stadium, 12 o'clock on Saturday. And you have a Phoebus team that's put up 648 points in 14 games this season. So they really know how to rattle up the scoreboard. They did graduate Taj Boyd, who's now at Clemson, their quarterback. He was a great quarterback for them there. But this game, it's something that we think every season it's going to come down to Phoebus and Stonebridge in Division 5. This here just so happens to. Stonebridge, very junior heavy, but they've handled the pressure well in the playoffs, pretty much mistake-free, and really capitalizing on errors by Lee in the Northern Region Championship game and errors by Maxaponics in the state semifinals.
It's all about coaching. They don't make mistakes. Stonebridge has not made crucial mistakes over these last couple of games, and I don't care if they're juniors, sophomores, freshmen. They got a great coach in Mickey Thompson, and they don't make the mistakes, and that's why they're in the state final.
Yep, Paul. And they run a single wing with a lot of guys in motion, spins, pirouettes, handoffs. It's pretty complicated. It's even hard to track with a camera. But when was the last time you saw a bad snap? A bad snap on a field goal. Abdul Shaban now holds a state record for consecutive extra points made. So this team, they have the fundamentals down, and they're opportunistic. Phoebus put the ball on the ground 6 times, 5 fumbles, and that crazy kickoff. And Stonebridge hopped on it 5 times. Rob Burns had a fumble recovery. Mike Gertie, one of the seniors on the squad, one of the senior leaders on the squad, recovered the kickoff. And then Spencer Rosatano, one of the most talented juniors we have in this region. He's not really talked about because he's not an every down type ball handler, but he receives, he runs on offense. He's an athlete on defense, plays safety and linebacker, and he plays special teams. He took the place of Shaban this weekend.
All right, so we got the state finals coming up on Saturday, but it is the second week of December, and that means basketball is underway. Monica Moore is going to take us through some of the players to watch in boys basketball.
Well, as you said, Paul, these teams already taking part in some non-district play. Season already started, so let's take a look at our players to watch, compiled by Paul Fromwalt. You see some players there from the Concord District, and of course, John Manning is the player that everybody's been talking about. They've been talking about him for the past 2 years. He has interest from almost every ACC school, Big East school. He's put on 20 pounds this year, so people are expecting very big things from the Chantilly standout. But of course, the Concord District always has loads of talent. We've talked a lot about Warren Denny this season. On the football field, of course, he's also a phenomenal basketball player, and you see some other football players on the list as well, both Zach Osick, Matt Zanalato, 2 of the top from the Concord District. Now let's talk a little bit about the National District. There were great teams National District play last year. Some of those players back. Skylar Jones is a player that I'm very excited about from Mount Vernon. And then, of course, Antonio Harris from Stuart. That Stuart squad last year looked fantastic. Of course, they had that game against Montrose Christian, which everyone in the region was talking about. So Antonio Harris back for his junior season. Moving on to the Liberty District now. Joey Kiffey, another football player on the list for Langley. And then there are some of your Patriot District standouts. We'll have more from Ryan Yates and Billy Rowland later on in the show, but I want to talk a little bit about Woodson. 2 Woodson players on the list, both Max Lennox and John Schoaf. John Schoaf, a player that a lot of people thought would have a breakout year this season. A little unfortunate news for the Woodson fans in that he tore some ligaments in his left ankle and dislocated a bone. So they're expecting right now that he's probably going to be out until February. Of course, that disappointment comes off the heels of last season where Max Lennox was injured. But Schoaf hoping to return. He already has an offer from Lafayette College. Princeton has also expressed some interest, and I know the Woodson coaching staff had to cancel some other coaches were coming in to take a look at him in the coming weeks, but because of that injury, and he's going to be out, but hopefully we'll see him back on the court in February. All right, well, let's talk about the big game from last night that everybody in the region is probably still talking about, and that is the Westfield-West Springfield matchup. West Springfield going on a huge run at the end of the game, led by Lawrence Rouse. Phil, I know you were there. This was a spectacular one to be at, to see West Springfield get their 500th win.
Yeah, I was going through the games, and Paul, sometimes we wait till last minute till we decide where we're going. And I was on West Springfield's school webpage, and they had their all-time records. So I clicked on it, I see that 499 all-time wins. Well, the Spartans are known for their valor and their resiliency and their courage in the movie 300. Those Spartans have nothing on these Spartans going for 500 on Tuesday night. But Westfield getting things going early. Marty Walsh playing 2-man ball with the quarterback, Danny Fenyak, but Walsh hits the triple. Westfield went on an 11-2 run in the second quarter. They lead 24-19 at the break. Cheerleaders did their thing. We all came out and enjoyed the second half. And that's when Zach Elcano went to work all day, being fed by Mark Gibson, Danny Fenyak, and the bunch. Zach and here Max Spees. Elcano finished with a team-high 18 points. Westfield is up 42-28 with 3 minutes left. Timeout called. Mark Travis taking the place of Dick Wickeline, who's attending a family illness. Mark Travis during timeout's like, yo guys, I got a marker and an idea. Let's give the ball to Lawrence Rouse. Rouse in this game, you saw a game-high 23 points. 13 of those came in the fourth quarter. 11 came in the final 3 minutes. Westfield did not score in those 3 minutes. Springfield on a 13-0 run to this point. 12 seconds left. They're screaming, get the ball to Lawrence. He gets it, dribbles, drives past Gibson, and draws the foul in the lane. He's headed to the line with 0.3 seconds left. West Springfield down 1. Gut check time for Rouse. First one, liquid. On the day, Paul, Lawrence Rouse was 9 of 10 on free throws. Guess which one he didn't miss? Westfield calls a timeout, trying to ice him, but you can't ice water because Rouse, making the crowd aroused, hits the free throw, hits both ends of the free throw. 0.3 seconds left. Westfield cannot get a shot off. With 0.3 seconds, they can't catch and shoot. Springfield scores the final 15 points to stun Westfield, 43-42. Now, in the last 2 seasons, West Springfield's won a combined 7 games. Westfield a combined 41. But Springfield gets it done, gets their 500th win in program history. An outstanding game.
Keeping our Northern Region boys basketball preview going, Monica Moore will set us up for BJ Kubaroulis' interview with a couple of TC Williams basketball stars.
Well, that's right. Both Billy Rowland and Ryan Yates came into the studio today to talk with BJ Kubaroulis in the Players Lounge.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Players Lounge. I'm BJ Kubaroulis. I'm joined in the lounge today by a couple of special guests from TC Williams. On the far left there is Ryan Yates, a longtime player for the Titans. Came up through the program, and here he is as a senior. Can't believe it, been covering him for quite some time. And Billy Rowland transferred in last year as a junior. He's a senior now, going to be playing in the paint. Both of these guys are 2 of the top players in the Northern Region when it comes to basketball, guys. And so we will start off the bat, and we will start with Ryan, who's been there for quite some time. Had a coaching change during his high school career, but you guys are scheduled to face your old coach in Ivan Thomas. You won a state championship with Ivan back a couple years ago. Here you are as a senior. What's that like, having to go up against Ivan, who's taken over the program down in Southern Virginia in Kecoughtan?
I mean, it was hard because actually the day he called me, I was in school and told me that he was leaving. I took it pretty hard. Me and EJ actually were in the office the rest of the day, like almost in tears when he told us he was leaving. Then when I got the message saying we'll be playing you this year, I was like, wow, like my senior year, you're the person I started with. Like me and Coach Thomas went through hell on high water together, right. Everything. And then in my career playing against him, it's something you don't think of, but I'll be prepared for it.
All right, Ivan Thomas had a lot of success, 3 region championships. You guys had won so many consecutive games in the Patriot District. TC Williams comes into this season with more than 70 games straight in the Patriot District. That's one of the longest standing conference streaks in this area. But also another streak was challenged last night, Billy. Sorry to give you this one, man. That's not. He gets the softball question about Ivan, and you got to talk about the loss. But we'll talk more about good stuff with you too. Let's talk though about the loss last night, man. Hayfield, you guys lost. It ends a bit of a kind of a time in which TC had not lost to anybody from this region. I did a little math today. You guys had only lost to Montrose Christian, Riverdale, some of the top programs. But, you know, Hayfield got you last night. Talk a little bit about what that does for you guys as fuel moving forward.
I mean, like our coach said last night, I mean, I'm glad we got that loss out early because having it late is just going to kill us. And we get to see where we stand right now. And, you know, a lot of young guys really didn't get to play, but you know, they're going to get the opportunity to do that. So they can definitely help us.
All right, speaking of opportunities, Billy Rowland has thrived in his opportunity at TC Williams. Started his career at Surrattsville and also played at the private school level for a while and came over to TC last year. First time I met him in the locker room, he looks up at me and he gives me one of these, man, which means he knew TC Williams basketball. All right, now this stands for, well, we'll leave that be. We'll let people make their own assumptions about what the dynasty stands for. Billy, you knew you had some big shoes to fill coming into TC Williams. And certainly the expectations are a lot talking about this program. What do you guys expect going into this year?
Well, I expect if we play hard and do what our coach tells us to do, run his plays, and play our game, we can go as far as state championship again.
And that is actually not out of the realm of possibility. TC Williams has been in the state tournament. Seems like every year now you guys are there. Every year, myself, as I include myself in this group, we always try to write you guys off. We always try to say this is going to be the year that TC falls off. And I'll take that hit. I will admit to it. But every year you guys seem to prove us wrong. Ryan, especially with the team that was a special team with Anthony Wimbush and EJ and yourself and Travis and all those guys. All now have moved on, Josh Jordan, all those guys playing at the college level. But you've been a part of several TC teams. What makes this one different?
This one's different. No one knows. Everyone's telling us what we can't do, or what we don't have, or what our coach isn't doing, or what's not going on. Well, no one knows. No one knows 11 games in 3 days over the summer at team camp, or the 12 o'clock running in the parking lot at night. No one knows how hard we work, or how bad we want it. So as much as they say, they don't know exactly what's going on.
All right, Billy, you obviously have experience playing in some other places. What makes playing at TC Williams different or unique? I've been at some games. I've seen parents and fans come off the bench and let you know when things aren't going well. What are the expectations and what's different about playing for this school?
It's definitely a lot more live. At the other schools, Sarasville is a small school, you know, not like 5 rows of bleachers. There'll be a few fans there, but it'll be enough people just because they didn't have anything to do after the school, so they'll show up. But TC is like rows and rows and rows of fans. Like, it's packed every night. Like, everybody knows who you are, and everywhere you go, like, even away games, TC fans will be there, other teams' fans will be there, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. That is exactly the way to put it. And, you know, Ivan Thomas was here for some time, had so much success. I would watch him get worn. This is the 3-time Region Coach of the Year, and the fans of Alexandria, if things aren't going their way, they let you know. All right, so expectations are a lot, Ryan. Going into this season now, you guys got the loss out of the way against Hayfield, but you got a gauntlet coming up here pretty soon with Woodson and Annandale, and then you're going to go up against Coach Thomas. Talk to me a little bit about some of the tougher games on the schedule and your guys' expectations of those games.
First, we got to regain our confidence starting tomorrow in practice. So expectations after that would be to go another streak, start a streak of our own by me and Billy leading the team. Like today, we had to talk with them, let them know what we needed, and they all are down for it. So we're just going to start off game by game and improve each game, and then hopefully at the end we'll be where we started playing out to be.
All right, man. Let's talk about some of the younger guys on the team. You and Ryan are obviously in a leadership role. You guys are older. Talk about some of the younger guys and who they are and what your expectations are for them.
Well, definitely, let me start off with the post where my guys are, and like Jamal Pullen, he's a junior. He's probably one of the most athletic guys we have on this team. He can jump out the gym. He gets boards. He's quick on offense. Like, we definitely need him to step up this year. And Rick Matthews, another junior. He's about 6'5", about my height. He can defend real well. He's definitely going to be one of the leading shot blockers this senior year, and he can need to step up his scoring game. And then Anthony Huggins, he's a small forward, power forward, 6'3", long hands, long feet, sophomore, only 15 years old. Definitely got a lot of potential.
All right, speaking of potential, both of you guys are on a lot of recruiters' lists in the area. Let's talk recruiting. Billy, what are some of your options? What are some of the stuff you're hearing early?
Early this summer when I played with a couple of AU teams, I got hooked up with Penn State, VCU, Clemson, Rider, and Loyola, of course, and where Anthony Wimbush is. I've been hearing a lot from them, so I got the decision to make.
Great, yeah, there's a lot of options. That's good to have. A lot of interest. Ryan, let's talk some of your offers, what you got coming in, what your expectations are, and then go ahead and just commit right on the show. We'll knock it out.
Pretty much. I'm wide open to anything. I've mainly been focused on books, but I've had Penn, Loyola, Mount St. Mary's, GW, George Mason, and 4 others.
All right. Well, things looking up for both Ryan Yates and Billy Rowland. Recruiting is heating up, and that will continue to heat up as these guys play into the postseason. We're not talking playoffs. We're not talking playoffs just yet, guys. It's a little early for that, but something tells me we'll be talking to you guys a little bit later in the season as well. I want to thank Billy Rowland and want to thank Ryan Yates for joining me here in the Players Lounge. Until next week, I'm BJ Kubarulis.
That's the Northern Region boys basketball preview. Now let's talk about some of the girls players returning this year. Lots of phenomenal standouts in the Concord district. Definitely the twins stand out there, Caroline Coyer and Catherine Coyer, hoping to follow up on last season, a great season for Oakton last year, hoping to lead their Oakton Cougars this year. And then Shelby Romine over at Westfield, she's a senior. She has been a standout over at Westfield for the past few years. This will be her senior year, so they're looking for big things out of Shelby. And then, of course, Samantha Partonen from Robinson, another senior to keep your eyes on. Let's move over into some of the other districts now to preview some players. There's Caitlin Baker from McLean. We'll have more on McLean later on, but she is one of the top players for the Highlanders this season. And Lauren Burford from Fairfax, we talked about her last week, signing her national letter of intent to compete at the next level. A lot of people have very high expectations for Lauren this season. Erin Kavanaugh over at Madison, another top player, and then Simone Otwee. You heard a lot about her during the volleyball season, taking her South County Stallions all the way to the state championship. Now she's switching gears into basketball season. Finally, we'll talk a little bit about some national district players. And there, of course, is the Woodson Cavalier Melissa Gallo I talked about earlier in the program, who will be playing for Boston University next year. Maisha Goodwin from Edison, one of the top players in the region. Everyone is expecting big things out of her this year. And then, of course, Tracy King and Jalinda Venable over at Mount Vernon, two of your other top players in the National District to watch. Well, some great girls basketball going on this past week. The Red Jenkins Tip-Off Classic happening. McLean squaring off against Chantilly, and the Highlanders get the win. The thing that stands out is the offensive diversity. 3 players from McLean with 9 points. Then Jessica Rowe from Chantilly with 7 points. 3 Chargers guys with 5 points apiece.
Yeah, Monica, you said it best. Offensive diversity for McLean, 3 scores with 9 points. But this team, they were held to 7 field goals, just 3 2-pointers, but they got it done from the line. And I know, Paul, because I was there in this game. All these teams, neither of them got past, none of the 4 teams competing in the Red Jenkins shootout got past the first round of regionals last year here. Amy Neck, high screen and roll with Jessica Rowe down low. Rose finished with 7 points. Then Katrina Hutzel draining the 3, putting Chantilly up 9-8 at the end of 1. And Chantilly stretching the lead before halftime. Here, Amy Necht again, ball handler, great distribution, dips down low to Casey Norwood for 2. Norwood finished with 5 points. Chargers up 22-14 at recess. But here, Caitlin Baker, we just saw her picture. Hope she scores 13 at one point this season, Paul, because I can call it a Baker's dozen. Makes my story easy. Here's Lauren Sutherland for 3. Sutherland was one of the 3 players with 9 points. Another one is Andy Romness hits the triple as well. She had 9. And guess who else, Paul, had 9? Oh, Miss Melissa Wilson, the post presence, gets it done. McLean come from behind to beat the Chargers 41-31. And again, only 7 made field goals in this game. They really got it done at the free throw line. Ball rattles off. Rebound goes to Andy Romness after the kick out. McLean, again, only 7 field goals. Romness fouled. She hit 1 of her 2 free throws. McLean was 23 of 43 from the line on the night. 23 of their 41 points coming from the charity stripe. Well, we move ahead in this game to Langley and Woodson. Langley getting off hot. Kristen Cody hits up Brooke Gallagher in the corner for 3. Gallagher finished with 11 points. Sorry, no, she finished with 7 points. Cody, though, drains a triple, but she got in foul trouble. More on that in a moment. But Langley leads 11-8 after 1. But Woodson coming back before the half. The triple in the corner from Taylor Hayes. She finished with a game-high 12. And then there, Melissa Guile with a hot sauce dribble. Ball's kicked outside, then up in to Christiane Murray, taking the Saxons to driving school, gets a hoop and the harm. Your score at the break, 20 apiece. Second half, though, here's where things got nuts for Langley. Kristen Cody called for her 5th foul with 7:30 left in the game on that drive. Kind of a close call. We take a second look. She was called for a charge here. That's her 5th foul with 7. Paul, you're putting your hands up. I guess you disagree. Apparently she does too. But when you take out one of the most dynamic players in the region, it makes it tough. And here, Kira Finnerty, the freshman in her high school debut, she had 11 points, 9 of them coming after halftime. If you take a team like Woodson and you add a player like Finnerty, a young talent like her, 9 points in the second half, it means trouble for the rest of the region. Woodson takes out a Langley 42-35. You see Taylor Hayes, game high 12, Finnerty 11. Kristen Cody, when she was in the game, Langley actually outscored Woodson 18-14. When she was not, Woodson outscored Langley 28-17.
Nicely done, Mr. Murphy. Let's take it back.
Little bit. So if you want to make some predictions about how you think the basketball season might shape up as we move along.
Well, I think this is finally Chantilly's year. We just saw some kids from TC Williams, and they're still the class of this region until they get knocked off. But I think Chantilly has their best shot this year. I'm not saying they'll do it. I'm not saying TC is going to lose the title, but Chantilly definitely has a shot, Phil.
Yeah, Paul. And usually Chantilly's biggest rival within the Concord district is Westfield. Westfield, kind of a young team, and you saw had trouble finishing against Wed Springfield. Yeah, there were some tough foul calls for them at the end, but really had no answer for Lawrence Rouse. And if you struggle to stop a player like Rouse, Chantilly has a couple guys like Rouse in Savage and Manning and the tall sophomore they have. Very talented team at Chantilly, so I agree with you. I think it's definitely Chantilly's year to make some noise. And the scary thing is a lot of those guys are juniors, so this could be a beginning of a mini dynasty for Chantilly, something like TC Williams has experienced the last couple of years. But it'll be interesting. TC, their game on December 5th against Kickingham against their former coach was postponed due to the snow back to December 19th. So Annandale plays Norview at 6. TC Williams play Kickingham at 8 in the Parker Gray Classic, December 19th. TC Williams, I think that's going to be two teams in the Patriot District that we need to watch in addition to Woodson. You got Max Lennox and John Shove, two very talented players for Woodson this year, and I think they're going to make some noise in the Patriot District their first year. It'll be interesting to see how Lake Braddock responds in first-year AD after Dominic Moore graduating for the Bruins.
Chantilly missing, obviously, Justin May, the one lone graduation from last year's fantastic squad. Now, they'll play Matter Day from California on Thursday, and that's obviously a big test for the Chargers, but that gives them a chance to play against one of the top teams in the nation.
Yeah, in Matter Day, their alumni include DJ Strawberry, who played at Maryland and then went on to star in the D-League. That team's loaded with talent. Every year they send player after player Division I, so it'll be interesting to see how our region stacks up against them. And then later on in the tournament, whether they win or lose, it'll be a tough win against Matter Day. They're nationally ranked. Win or lose, they can play a WCSC team. They're St. Jesuit Prep from Dallas. So a lot of talent, and some of the best teams in the nation are in that tournament. Chantilly earned its way in with what everyone's talking about. There's incredible potential this year. So John Manning, I heard, is questionable for that first game. We hope he can play because it'll really be great to see how he compares against some of the best centers in the nation.
On the girls' side, you talk about TC Williams on the boys' side. You got to talk about Oakton on the girls' side with the Coyer sisters and also Zora Stevenson. She's the star of that team, and she'll look to have another fantastic year. And then looking at the national district for girls basketball, Maisha Goodman, Tracy King, Jalinda Venable. And there's some great talent on the girls' side, but again, just like TC, Oakton's the top until they get knocked off.
In addition to Maisha Goodwin, probably the preseason favorite for National District Player of the Year is Linda Way Rennert. That girl's a double-double waiting to happen, and I think in girls basketball, a National District competes best against the rest of the districts from around the region. We always talk about, how generally speaking, teams from the Patriot beat teams from the National District. Girls basketball, I think they can make some noise come regional tournament time.
All right, Monica, thanks for asking.
Well, and never fear, because this week we previewed basketball. Next week we will be previewing all of the other winter sports. So we'll have swimming and diving, gymnastics, indoor track, wrestling, all of that information for you next week. So do not think that we left that out of our winter preview. Before we go, we also want to preview the Verizon Fios Game of the Week, which will be Herndon and South Lakes. Tip-off is on Friday at 7:30. Thanks so much for joining us. Before we go, once again, we want to thank the folks that make our program possible, our good friends at CCI Screen Printing and Craig Strabutzel for those fantastic photos you saw during the program. You can get copies of this show at www.pressboxvideo.com and check out the Video Vault feature on our website. Become a fan of the Fairfax Sports Network on our Facebook page and send us story ideas, comments, and suggestions to our email address. Well, next week will be our last episode of the year, so definitely tune in. We'll see you next week.